Hey there, fellow anglers. I'm sure you've heard the same old story 1,000 times. There's no bite in March. The fish are still dormant, the water's freezing, and you're better off staying home on the couch. Well, what if I told you that's one of the biggest myths in fishing? Today, we're not just talking about it. We're going to bust that myth wide open. I'm going to share the exact secrets that help me limit out while 90% of the guys out there are heading home empty-handed. So, grab a coffee and get comfortable, because we're diving into the real deal today. Make sure you watch until the end, because some of these tips might sound a bit backwards, but trust me, they're the ones that actually work. And definitely let me know in the comments if you agree with me. First off, let's look at why people think March is a dead month. Honestly, it makes sense on the surface. March is the ultimate shoulder season. Winter hasn't quite left, and spring hasn't fully arrived. The water is ice cold, usually hovering right around that 2 to 4 degree mark. Fish are coming off a long, hard winter. Their metabolism is crawling, and they're feeling pretty lethargic. But here's the kicker. Their behavior changes completely. The spots where you crushed it through the ice or where you usually cast in the heat of summer are probably ghost towns right now. Most guys head to their lucky spot, stare at a still line for hours, and decide the fish just aren't biting. But they're missing the point. The fish are there, and they do need to eat. They just aren't where you're looking, and they aren't interested in your usual lures. March isn't about your standard routine. It's about being smart, staying observant, and really understanding the water. All right, let's kick things off with the big one. The secret that flips the script on everything you think you know about spring fishing. First rule, toss those winter habits out the window. Most anglers are still stuck in that winter mindset, grinding it out over deep holes where the fish have been hunkered down for months. But honestly, that is a massive mistake. In March, the second that sun starts to actually feel warm, everything in the water shifts. Life heads for the shallows. Picture a tiny bay, maybe only 2 or 3 feet deep. To you, it looks like a barren wasteland, but to a fish, that's a 5-star buffet. The water there can warm up 5 or even 10 degrees faster than the deep stuff. That's where the bugs wake up and the larvae start moving. The baitfish flood in to feed, and you can bet the predators are right on their heels. So, here's your golden rule. Stop looking for depth and start looking for warmth. Find those sun-drenched shallow spots, and you'll be shocked at the results while everyone else is still out there over the main channel, wondering why the fish aren't biting. Parlant de chaleur, attardons-nous aux panneaux solaires naturels de nos plans d'eau. Faut savoir que tous les hauts-fonds ne se valent pas. Le secret, c'est de dénicher les plus chauds. Comment? C'est simple. Regardez votre carte ou observez les berges. Les secteurs situés au sud ou au sud-ouest sont toujours plus chauds. Ils sont exposés au soleil toute la journée, alors que les rives nord restent souvent à l'ombre. On parle parfois d'une différence d'1 ou 2 degrés seulement. Mais pour le poisson en mars, c'est le jour et la nuit. Un autre facteur clé, c'est la couleur du fond. Un fond sombre, vaseux ou terreux absorbe la chaleur beaucoup mieux qu'un fond de sable clair. C'est pourquoi une petite baie peu profonde avec un fond foncé situé au sud devient un véritable aimant à poissons. Tenez un exemple frappant. Sur un même lac, la perche chaude peut mordre à fond sur la rive sud, alors qu'à peine 100 mètres plus loin, au nord, c'est le calme plat. Ça vaut vraiment le coup de marcher 1 kilomètre de plus pour trouver ce genre de spot. Le prochain secret, c'est de repérer ce qu'on appelle le eau-vive. Mais c'est quoi au juste? Ce sont les endroits où des ruisseaux, des petites rivières ou même l'eau de fonte des champs se jette dans le plan d'eau principal. Ces courants-là apportent une eau un peu plus chaude, mais surtout une eau super riche en oxygène. Après un long hiver de manque d'oxygène, le poisson se rue instinctivement vers ces zones-là. C'est un peu comme nous, quand on ouvre grand la fenêtre pour laisser entrer l'air frais dans une pièce étouffante. Même un filet d'eau presque invisible peut créer un genre de zone spéciale qui va attirer des tonnes de poissons au même endroit. En plus de l'oxygène, l'eau de fonte transporte tout un buffet, des larves, des vers et des petits débris organiques. C'est littéralement la livraison de bouffe à domicile pour les poissons. Alors, quand vous analysez votre plan d'eau, gardez l'œil ouvert. Les embouchures, les passages entre 2 lacs, le bas des talus où l'eau s'écoule, ce sont tous des hotspots. C'est souvent là qu'en mars, on tombe sur les plus gros bancs de poissons et sur les spécimens les plus impressionnants. Parlons maintenant des structures sous-marines. On pourrait croire qu'au printemps, c'est le désert là-dessous parce que l'herbe de l'an passé a fini par pourrir. Mais c'est loin d'être le cas. Les restes de végétation comme les vieux joncs, les roseaux ou les nénuphars jouent un rôle immense. Premièrement, c'est un abri naturel. Le poisson, surtout les plus gros, se sent pas mal plus en sécurité près de ces structures-là. Deuxièmement, les vieilles tiges, c'est un vrai garde-manger. C'est rempli de petits organismes qui nourrissent le poisson fourrage. Troisièmement, tout comme un fond foncé, la végétation qui se décompose absorbe mieux la chaleur du soleil. Ça crée des petites zones d'eau plus chaudes. C'est pour ça qu'une plage toute propre et sablonneuse en mars, c'est rarement un bon spot. Par contre, la lisière d'une talle de jonc ou des arbustes inondés dans le peu profond, c'est exactement ça qu'on cherche. Faut cibler ces coins-là. Pas besoin de lancer au beau milieu de la brousse. Souvent, le poisson se tient juste sur la limite entre l'eau libre et la végétation. Un lancer bien placé le long de cette bordure-là, puis c'est là que vous allez la voir, votre attaque. C'est un classique qui fait ses preuves à chaque printemps. Let's talk about micro-relief. A lot of anglers think that when you're fishing the shallows, the bottom structure doesn't really matter. That is a huge mistake. Even in 3 feet of water, there are subtle features that act like magnets for fish. We're talking about tiny depressions, maybe just 10 inches deeper than the rest, or small rises, what we call humps. Why does this matter? Well, those deeper pockets hold their temperature longer at night, giving the fish a place to hold when it's cold. And those humps? They're the first to warm up under the sun, which is exactly where fish go to feed during the day. You don't even need a fancy fish finder to spot these. Just use a jig or a simple marker weight. Drag it along the bottom, and you'll feel every little change. Spend 15 minutes mapping out a promising area, and I promise it'll pay off big time. Finding a small hump or a hole on a massive shallow flat is like finding a chest of gold. That's exactly where the fish are going to stack up. Let's talk a little fishing psychology. If you want to catch more, stay away from those high-pressure, obvious spots. In the spring, this rule is absolute gold. If a spot has easy access, a cleared bank, or a parking lot right next to it, it's a dead giveaway that it's being overfished. In that crystal-clear spring water, fish are incredibly spooky. The constant noise, people walking the bank, and the general commotion will push them far away from those convenient locations. The secret is simple. Go where everyone else is too lazy to go. Hike that extra 500 meters. Find a small overgrown cove that's a pain to get to. Sure, it won't be comfortable. You'll probably have to bushwhack through some scrub or sit on a steep, uneven bank. No, that's exactly where the real rewards are waiting. The fish there aren't spooked. They feel safe and they'll hit your bait with way more confidence. Remember, 90% of anglers choose comfort. Be part of the 10% that chooses results. Often, the biggest catch of the season is waiting in a spot where you won't see a single footprint in the mud. Let's talk about timing. Forget that old summer rule that the best bite is at dawn. In March, that just doesn't apply. Early morning is actually the coldest part of the day. The water has cooled down overnight, and the fish are sluggish, barely moving at all. You could sit out there from sunrise until 10 a.m. and not see a single hit. The real golden window for March fishing is between 11 in the morning and 4 or 5 in the afternoon. That's when the sun is at its highest, the water warms up, and fish activity peaks. They move into the shallows to soak up the warmth and look for food. So, there's no need to set your alarm for 4 a.m. Sleep in, grab a coffee, and aim to be at the water by 10. You can take your time setting up and be ready exactly when the action starts. This is one of those rare cases where being the early bird might actually leave you empty-handed. Sync your schedule with nature's rhythm instead of your old habits, and you'll see a massive difference in your results. The evening bite can be okay, but in March, that midday window is almost always the most productive time to be on the water. A lot of anglers overlook barometric pressure, but honestly, that's a big mistake. In March, when fish are hypersensitive to every little change, the barometer is a total game changer. The worst thing you can see is a sudden spike in pressure. When it shoots up fast, the fish just shut down. They hug the bottom and get completely lethargic. You can throw everything in your tackle box at them, but the result will be the same, 0. The sweet spot for March fishing is stable or slowly falling pressure over a few days. That's when fish feel comfortable, active, and ready to feed. So before you head out, don't just look at the weather forecast, check the barometer. If it's been steady for 2 or 3 days, get your gear ready. Your odds are high. But if it's bouncing up and down like a yo-yo, you might be better off staying home and finishing those chores. Following this simple rule will save you a ton of time and frustration, and it'll help you pick only the best days to be on the water. Wind. For most folks, it's just a pain in the neck, something that ruins your cast and chills you to the bone. But for a seasoned angler, wind is your secret weapon. In March, you always want to be on the windward shore, the one getting hammered by the breeze. Why? Because that wind is pushing the warmest surface water right to the bank. It might only be a slight difference, but in the spring, every degree counts. On top of that, the waves are stirring up the bottom, washing out all kinds of feed, larvae, bugs, and worms. It's like a dinner bell for bait fish, and where there's bait, the predators follow. Sure, it's a grind. Casting into the wind and dealing with the chop isn't exactly comfortable, but in that murky, churned-up water, fish lose their caution. They're way more active and way more likely to strike. While the other guys are hiding in the calm spots or tucked behind a point, go find the wind. Stay tough, head right into it, and you'll be the one getting the bite. Let's debunk another common myth, the idea that you need bright sunshine for the fish to bite. That's actually only half the story. Sure, the sun warms up the water, which helps kickstart the action. But if you're chasing predators like pike or perch, a clear bluebird day in March isn't always your best bet. Once the ice is gone, the water is crystal clear. On a sunny day, the fish see everything. They see you on the bank, they see your line, and they see your lure. It makes them incredibly skittish. On the flip side, a gray, overcast day, maybe even with a light dusting of snow or a bit of rain, can be a total game changer. When the light levels drop, predators feel much more confident. They're way more likely to leave their cover and strike your bait with aggression. So, don't let a cloudy forecast get you down. While panfish might crave that extra warmth, if you're targeting pike, those clouds are your best friend. It's the absolute perfect time to go after those big, toothy predators. Now, let's talk about baiting. This is where a lot of anglers make their biggest mistake. They show up at the lake and, out of habit, dump several pounds of that bright, heavy-smelling summer mix right into the spot. In March, that just doesn't work. In fact, it'll do more harm than good. At this time of year, a fish's metabolism is still very slow. They don't need much to get full. If you overfeed, the few fish that actually show up will eat their fill of the chum and lose all interest in your hook. When it comes to spring fishing, the golden rule is less is more. Your ground bait should be fine-textured, almost like a powder. You want it to create a nice, murky cloud that grabs their attention without giving them any actual chunks to eat. Remember, your goal is to attract the fish, not feed them. Keep the color dark so it blends in with the bottom. Anything too bright will just spook a cautious fish. As for the scent, keep it very subtle. Stick to natural, cold water smells like bloodworm or earthworm. Leave the sweet summer aromas like strawberry or vanilla at home. Just 1 or 2 small bait balls every hour is more than enough to get the job done. Moving on with our gear talk, let's dive into colors. This applies to everything: soft plastics, ground bait, and even your ice jigs. When that March water is crystal clear, those loud neon colors that crush it in the summer can actually spook the fish. They see something that bright and think danger, not dinner. In the spring, natural and dark tones are the way to go. For your soft plastics, reach for motor oil, dark greens, or earthy browns. These don't raise any red flags because they look just like the real thing: leeches, larvae, and small bait fish. The same rule goes for your crankbaits. Put away the bright fire tiger patterns and stick with natural finishes that look like perch or shiners. Even if you're still out on the ice, dark jigs, like black or plain lead, often work way better than flashy gold or silver. The fish are cautious right now. Our goal is to offer them something that blends in and perfectly matches their natural food source. Save the neon for the summer heat. Parlons des odeurs. Les attractants et les dips sont des outils puissants pour un pêcheur, mais au printemps, faut y aller mollo. En eau froide, les odeurs voyagent pas de la même façon et le poisson est pas mal plus sensible. Oubliez la chimie, trop agressive. Ici, c'est le naturel qui gagne. L'idée, c'est de matcher votre odeur avec votre appât. Si vous pêchez au verre de vase, restez sur une odeur de verre de vase. Si c'est à l'asticot, allez-y avec l'asticot. Les additifs naturels, c'est ça qui marche le mieux. Un bon truc de pro, Écrasez quelques vers de terre directement dans votre amorce ou ajoutez-y des larves vivantes. C'est ce genre d'odeur authentique qui rassure le poisson et le pousse à mordre sans hésiter. Pour les prédateurs, visez des senteurs de poisson ou d'écrevisses. La règle d'or, c'est la subtilité. Le parfum doit être léger, presque imperceptible. Vaut mieux ne rien mettre du tout que d'en mettre trop et de gâcher sa journée de pêche. Let's talk bait. In March, the water is still freezing and the fish are pretty sluggish, so live bait is almost always going to outperform anything plant-based. You're better off leaving the corn, barley, and dough baits at home until at least May. Right now, fish are looking for high-protein meals to get their energy back after a long winter. Your absolute number one choice this time of year has to be bloodworms. They'll get a reaction from just about anything, from small panfish to heavy-hitting slabs. Maggots are just as effective, especially if you run a cocktail, tipping your hook with both a maggot and a bloodworm. One bait people often overlook is the classic earthworm or red wiggler. Their natural movement and strong scent can trigger a strike from even the most finicky fish. Sometimes caddisfly larvae can also save the day. If you're targeting predators, especially perch, a small live minnow is going to beat out even the most expensive soft plastics every time. When fish are lethargic, they're looking for an easy, high-value target. Nothing wakes them up like a bit of live action right in front of their nose. Now let's talk retrieve speed. This one's for the lure anglers. If you bring those summer habits, like burning a lure or aggressive jigging, into March, you're going home empty-handed. In cold water, fish are sluggish. They aren't going to chase down a fast-moving meal. They just won't waste the energy. The secret to early spring fishing is all about the slow play. You want your retrieve to be at a snail's pace, right on the edge of the lure losing its action. If you're jigging, your pauses need to be long, 10, maybe even 15 seconds. Let the bait sit on the bottom and kick up a little puff of mud. That's usually when a big pike or walleye decides to strike. If you're throwing hard baits, stick with suspenders and give them plenty of soak time. Whether it's soft plastics or spoons, keep it slow and steady. Your goal is to keep that bait in the strike zone as long as possible, giving the fish time to look it over and commit. When it comes to March fishing, patience and a slow hand are your best friends. Go thin! It's a rule many anglers ignore, but they shouldn't. In March, the water is usually crystal clear. Fish can see everything, not just your bait, but your line too. A thick, visible line can spook even a hungry predator. That's why in the spring, you need to use the lightest tackle possible for the size of fish you're after. If you usually run a 0.14 millimeter braid in the summer, try switching to 0.08 in the spring. And if you're targeting pike, ditch that heavy metal leader for a thin, stealthy fluorocarbon one. Sure, there's a risk of a bite-off, but the number of strikes you'll get will skyrocket. The same goes for float fishing. Use the thinnest leader in your box, maybe a 0.08 or a 0.1 millimeter, and your smallest hook. You'll be surprised how much more confident the bites become. In clear water, finesse is everything. It's one of those secrets that separates the pros from the amateurs. La sensibilité de ton équipement, c'est le nerf de la guerre, surtout en mars. À cette période-ci de l'année, les touches sont souvent très subtiles, presque imperceptibles. Oublie les attaques agressives de l'été où le poisson manque de t'arracher la canne des mains. Là, on parle plutôt d'un petit frémissement, d'un léger tremblement du sion ou d'un bouchon qui cale à peine. Si ton équipement est trop rigide, une vraie barre de fer, tu vas rater 90% des touches sans même t'en rendre compte. C'est pour ça qu'au printemps, la sensibilité est cruciale. Pour le lancer léger, choisis une canne avec un sion ultra sensible qui réagit au moindre contact avec le fond ou le poisson. Si tu pêches au feeder, installe ton sion le plus souple possible. Et pour la pêche au bouchon, utilise un flotteur très léger et ajuste bien tes plombs pour qu'ils s'enfoncent à la moindre petite sollicitation. Si tu négliges cet aspect-là, tu risques de passer des heures au bord de l'eau à penser que ça ne mord pas, alors qu'en réalité, le poisson est constamment en train de gosser après ton appât sans que tu puisses le voir. The art of silence. Remember how we mentioned that fish are incredibly skittish in that crystal clear spring water? That brings us to our most important rule. Stay as quiet as possible. Loud talking, heavy footsteps on the bank, or even the clank of a tackle box These vibrations travel through the ground and into the water, spooking fish for dozens of yards around you. Move smoothly and keep a low profile. If you're fishing from a boat, don't just drop the anchor, lower it gently to the bottom. Be careful not to knock your oars or gear against the side of the boat. Even your shadow hitting the water can scatter a school of fish holding near the shore. Wear muted, earthy colors that blend in with the surroundings. When you get to your spot, don't rush the first cast. Stand still for a few minutes and just observe. You might see a ripple or a flash of silver that gives them away. March fishing is really more like hunting, and any good hunter knows that stealth is the secret to success. Be a ghost on the water. Spend more time watching than you do casting. It might sound a bit backwards, but it's the best advice you'll ever get. Instead of just pounding the water with your lure or dumping bait in the same spot over and over, take a moment to actually look. In the early spring, a good pair of polarized shades is your best friend. They cut right through the glare, letting you see what's actually happening beneath the surface. You might spot a lunker tucked into the reeds, or see a school of minnows scattering as a perch moves in for the hunt. Keep an eye on the birds, too. If you see gulls circling a specific spot, they've found the bait fish, and you can bet the predators are right there with them. Watch for anything out of the ordinary. A patch of muddy water, bubbles rising from the bottom, or a slight twitch in the weeds. These are all dead giveaways. Honestly, 20 minutes of scouting on the bank will tell you more than 2 hours of blind casting ever could. The fish are always talking. You just have to learn how to read the signs. At the end of the day, fishing isn't just about the gear. It's a thinking man's game. The single spot strategy. When spring rolls around, hunting for fish isn't always the best move, unlike in the heat of summer. Constantly moving along the shoreline creates a lot of noise, and that's a quick way to spook the few wary fish in the area. Often, the smartest play is to pick one prime location and really work it. Let's say you found a nice shallow bay with a dark bottom and some leftover reeds. Don't be in a rush to move on. Carefully bait the area, make your cast, and settle in. Early season fish follow their own unique paths and tend to feed in waves. You might sit through an hour of total silence, only to get 20 minutes of aggressive bites right after. If you're busy hiking to a new spot when that happens, you've missed your window entirely. In the spring, patience is a fisherman's greatest asset. If you've got a good feeling about a spot, give it a real chance. Trust me, staying put and being methodical usually brings in a much better haul than running up and down the bank all day. So, let's wrap things up. As you've seen, the idea that the fish aren't biting in March is nothing more than a myth. Usually, it's just an excuse for folks who aren't ready to switch gears from their summer or winter habits. March isn't a dead zone. It's a time for smart, tactical, and incredibly rewarding fishing. The secret to a full live well isn't some magic lure or a secret sauce additive. It's about understanding the water. You have to stop fighting the conditions and start working in harmony with them. Keep the core principles in mind. Hunt for those pockets of warmer water in the shallows. Use the lightest and most delicate tackle possible. Stay quiet and stay observant. But most importantly, slow down. Slow retrieves, slow waits, and slow decisions. March has no room for rushing. It rewards those who know how to wait and think. Thanks for watching to the very end. I hope these tips help you see March fishing in a whole new light. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more fishing secrets. Now, I've got a question for you. What are your personal go-to secrets for the March bite? Or do you still think it's a lost cause? Let me know in the comments. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Tight lines, everyone.